Bonjour et bienvenue dans le menu Guzzling Gourmet ce soir. Ce soir, nous préparons un plat français classique, poulet chasseur. A few non-French speakers, or those who had no idea what I said because I said it so badly, we're going to do chicken chasseur. So, cheers. So, chicken chasseur, hunter's chicken. Okay, hunter's chicken, traditional French stew, made obviously of chicken. Okay, and it's going to be cooked and then in a sauce with mushrooms. Now, traditionally, it would be mushrooms because when you're out hunting for your chicken to shoot them, back in the day, of course, when you'd have to go and shoot them rather than just go and get them from the supermarket, you might forage for other things, and obviously on the way you might find some mushrooms. So it will have mushrooms. So it's quite a simple dish, really. Okay, we're going to start by preparing a stock. Now, ideally, you would prepare this from the chicken carcass and the bones. We ain't got any, so we're going to cheat and do it slightly differently. So, chicken chasseur. Okay, so let's go into our chicken stock. And initially, we would have just cooked up the some chicken bones, and then we would have added, say, a veal stock. Because we haven't got the chicken bones, we're just going to chuck in an existing chicken stock. Okay, keep that pour on. Now, going into that, we're going to add some garlic. Okay, now we aren't blitzing this afterwards in a blender, we're going to be sieving all this out. So I've just shoved the garlic in whole. I've got the trimmings, like the stalks from the mushrooms, that's going in there. And then I've got half an onion, and that's going to go in there. And I've got a largish carrot, and that's going in there. Okay, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to boil this up. And let all the chuck carrot on the floor. Wife be after me because she washed the floor earlier. That was after I made my pasta and got flour all over it. And then the other ingredient we're going to add at this stage is some tomato paste, or I've got some passata. So I'm just going to chuck that in it because it wants to be a tomatoey sort of sauce eventually. And so that's going to go on the heat, and we're just going to heat that through. Alright, so I'm going to put it on the back burner because then you can see what I'm doing for the next bit. Okay, so really you want to cook this in, excuse me, Dutch oven. Okay, one of them sort of cast iron dishes. Okay, I'm going to use my shallower one just so that simply you can see a little bit more what's going on. Okay, so we're going to cook some chicken in here. We're basically going to brown it all off, and then that will then go into the oven for about another 30 minutes, 25-30 minutes, to cook it all through, at which point we remove the chicken and leave all the sort of browny bits and stuff like that in the pan. The chicken will be kept warm, okay, and then we'll use what's left in here to go in with the sauce, including my stock, which has just come up to the boil. So I'm now going to just turn that down and let that just simmer away. Okay, that will probably want to go for about half an hour. So essentially, we do that while we cook the chicken. Okay. Thirsty word is too much talking. So obviously, what you're going to need is some chicken. Now, I had a hell of a job getting some chicken with skin on. So we haven't got chicken with skin on, and the idea would be if it was chicken fillets with skin on, we don't even have to be fillets. You would obviously want to brown it, get the chicken skin nice and crispy, but we ain't got any. You're going to want some flour to coat the chicken in before we fry it. Okay, we're going to fry it in butter. Okay, you're going to want some mushrooms, some shallots, some tarragon, some parsley. Okay, some white wine, which is why we're on the white wine. some cognac, because we're going to do a bit of flambe. So we're going to flambe it with the cognac, deglaze it with the white wine. Don't need a lot of white wine. That's not to go in the deglazing, that's to go into me. And that's it really, like I say. Oh, and to help thicken the stock, we're going to have some beurre roux, which I'll explain what that is when we come to that stage of the stock. So, stock is simmering away. Got my pan ready. Got my flour. So let's get the chicken underway. Right, so I'm going to take a lump of butter. Okay, in that goes. And we're going to want some butter later. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the heat on, obviously, and we want to get the butter melted and starting to foam up. At which point we then add in the chicken. So the chicken, okay, I've got some breast fillets here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to coat them in some flour. And I'm just going to season them with some salt and pepper. Wet hands. Most of that just fell straight off. But never mind. And then I'm essentially going to do each of them chicken fillets as they as I put them in. But like I say, what we want first off is our butter sort of starting to foam up, right? So we just wait for that, and then we'll start shoving the chicken in. Okay, so the butter's starting to foam up, and you can hear it ready. So I'm just going to start putting the chicken into the pan. And like I say, the idea is we're not trying to cook it through at this stage. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. We just want to brown the outsides, and then we will be finishing it off in the oven. Alright, so do you notice all that just fell straight off? So in that one goes, and of course, as per usual, remember we've got our 3-breasted chickens that are very common in Tesco's. Okay, so well, either that or there's a lot of packs with just one breast in, but I don't know. So that just wants to go up a little bit more, I think. Stock still simmering. Your chicken's now in here, ready to start burning with all the seasoning, browning with all the seasoning falling off. So we'll just carry on until that's ready to go in the oven. Okay, so chicken has got pick the bugger up, pick a slipper little fucker. Although apparently I'm told that wasn't what she said in the film, it was slipper little bugger, I think, but anyway. So that side sort of started to brown nicely. Like I say, if it was the skin, we'd be looking to get the skin nice and crispy. Right, another little slipper little fucker, turn over. Right, so we'll just turn the other sides over. I was just starting to get ready some of the next ingredients, and what I've been doing is taking some of the parsley, I've done the parsley, stripped off the leaves, and I'm putting the stalks into the the stock, because it just adds a bit of flavour, right? And it's all coming out anyway, all coming out in the wash. Alright, so really not much else to show you until that chicken goes in the oven. Okay, so that's just about done now. Okay, it didn't take quite so long now. I flipped it over because it's quite hot. Remember, this pan is really bloody hot. Right, so I'm just going to turn the heat off, and we'll put the lid on. And what we're now going to do is we're going to shove that in the oven for about 25 minutes on 180ish. Right. This is where I have to be careful, don't burn yourself. Oh shit, that was now, we can't do anything more because we need that pan that the chicken's cooked in. So, but obviously what we can do is we can start preparing the rest of it. So, we've got our mushrooms, which earlier I trimmed out the stalks, and like I said, they went into the stock, and the stock is still simmering away nicely here. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to slice up our mushrooms. Okay. I've probably got more mushrooms than you need, but I like my mushrooms, as you well know, if you've been following this. And we also will need to slice up thinly the shallots. Okay. Now I've got about 50, 60, 70 grams of shallots. Okay. We probably only wanted about the same amount. I actually know, probably a bit more than that of mushrooms, but like I say, I've put in more simply because I like my mushrooms. So I'm going to just finish chopping these up, and then I'm going to slice up the shallots, and then I've got a handful of parsley, just under a handful of tarragon. I'm just going to roughly chop all that up, and so then everything is ready to go. Okay, so now we're just waiting on the chicken. Okay, so we're coming up close to the time to take the chicken out of the oven again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just turn that off, or turn the stock off I mean. Okay, and we're just going to let that cool down a little bit, and then I'm going to sieve it. So we take out all the lumpy bits. Alright, we don't want all them. So then bits of onion, the bits of carrot, bits of tarragon and parsley, stalks, and so on, we'll chuck them away. Alright, that's good, make a veg stew. Oh, there you go. Oh no, I put butter in, didn't I? Oh, did I put butter in it? Oh no, it's chicken stock in it. I was just going to say I could serve this up as a vegan dish, couldn't I? But can't put chicken stock in it. And I'll now just let on I put chicken stock in it like I showed earlier, so I just can't lie and get away with it. Anyway, got a vegetable, chunky vegetable soup with just no liquid. Anyway, so I'm going to just let that cool, then I'm going to sieve it, and then I'll return it back to that pan, because we need then just to finish off the stock before we can then use that stock in the sort of Chasseur sauce. Okay, so the chicken in the oven is cooked, so I'm just going to turn the oven off. What I will do though is I will obviously want to keep it warm in there, because I'm going to take the chicken out, cover it with foil, and we're going to put it back into the oven just to keep it warm. So, out comes my dish. Okay, and then I've got a dish here for my chicken, which has been even more of a bugger. Okay, I'm just going to transfer that chicken into a separate dish. Okay, except it doesn't want to come out. Okay, put that lid on because it's starting to get a bit warm. And like I said, I'm just going to cover this dish over with some foil, and that's going back in the oven just to keep it warm. Okie doke, let's get preparing the sauce Chasseur. Okay, so before we start on the sauce sachet, we're just going to finish off our stock. So there you can see it's a nice tomatoey colour, not tasty yet, but I'm just going to put the heat on, and I'm going to turn it down for the moment. And at the moment obviously it's very runny, and we would like to thicken it up. So what I've prepared here is some beurre roux. Now this is, no, it's not pure potato, I know it looks like it. Excuse me, must be the wine. Can't think what else it is. I haven't anything else. So what this is an equal mixture of butter and flour. And so what we do is we just break off a few small pieces, and we drop that into here, Okay, I put about 4 pieces in there. And we now turn the heat up so that we mix this in. Now this isn't going to be like, you know, like your corn flour. It's not going to be like your corn flour or whatever. It's not going to really thicken it that much. But it will add a little bit of thickness. Okay, and it will get it to the right consistency so that it will be sticky enough to adhere to the chicken. Right, so I'm just going to now just cook this through, and then once that's done, I'm just going to take this off the heat, put it at the back, and then we'll start properly with the sauce Chasseur. So remember, I've got my mushroom sliced, I've got my shallots sliced, I've got my cognac ready. Cognac, you're going to want about 25-ish mils. We're burning it all off. We're burning the alcohol. You want about 50 odd mils of white wine, the vin blanc. And then, like I said, you will want some tarragon and some parsley, which we put in quite near the end. Now, as an accompaniment, you might want to have some potatoes with this. Okay, or you can have some tagliatelle. And I know that's Italian and this is a French dish, but don't matter. And as it happens, we made some tagliatelle earlier, using the same recipe as we've previously done on here, an egg pasta. Okay, so we're going to just serve it with a small amount of tagliatelle, and that will be it. So the beurre rouge is melting away here, but I just need to get it all fully melted in and blended in. Right, so the stock is all ready. Okay, it's just under 500 mils, so this is about all we want. Now there's the pan. You can see like the browny bit stuck on the side, but we don't worry about that. That's all part of the flavour. We don't want to get rid of that. So I'm going to put that back on to some heat. Still bloody hot. I keep trying to remember not to pick it up. So I'm just going to put it on a lowish heat. And what we're going to do is we're going to toss our mushrooms, our sliced mushrooms, into there. He says trying to slice off his fingertips on the knife, which is in the way. Okay, and we're just going to let them sort of sweat for a bit. Although I've just got to get the heat up for that. We're just going to cook them for a couple of minutes once that gets up to temperature. Should have perhaps warmed that up a little bit before. That one, there it is. Okay, and like I said, we're going to then be wanting to put in our shallots, which are all chopped up nice and fine. Bloody warm in here. Freezing outside, so I ain't opened that back door. Alright. We'll be adding a little bit of butter later. At the moment, actually, I think I might add a little bit now. It's looking a little bit dry because the mushrooms will tend to soak up the liquid a little bit. That's why you don't wash mushrooms, because if you wash them, they tend to soak up the water, and then obviously whatever you're making tends to be a bit too wet, if you like. But I've added a little bit more butter, so we're just going to cook them for a few minutes. Okay, and then what I will do once they've sautéed for a little bit, just to temperature up, we'll chuck in the shallots. Okay, so they've cooked for a few minutes, so what I'm going to do now is we're just going to shove the shallots in there. I'm going to do it by my hand to be easier. We'll shove these in and we'll sweat them for a couple of minutes. Okay, and while they're doing that, let me just get all them other little bits that fell off the side. Might as well go all in there. What we'll do is we'll just chop up our tarragon and parsley roughly. All right, so there's my tarragon. Now this will all be going in together, so it doesn't matter if it all gets mixed up when you're chopping it up, as it were. So like I say, you want about a handful of parsley. Okay, I've probably got a little bit too much here, so I don't think I'll do them last remaining bits. Okay. I think I might have mentioned in one of the other videos when I was talking about cream. Actually, I don't think I finished the story off. I was saying about where I used to work as a cook, if you like, at Leeds Castle. I was offered the chance of giving up uni. Instead of going to uni, I was said, if you want to stay, we'll not teach you, we'll put you through chef's college. But I was adamant I didn't want to do that at the time. I liked doing it, so I didn't do it. And I was saying one of my jobs was actually used to shove these quickly cut gallon containers of double cream into the big mixer in order to whip it up, and then you'd get called off to do something else, and next minute, you know, someone's shouting here because the mixer's trying to walk across the room, because what we've now got is like £20 of butter, right? So it's not very popular. But one of my other jobs that I had to do at one point, it was chop up all the parsley really fine. I used to do that a lot. Anyway, right, they've sweated for a little bit, so what we're now going to do is, whoa, I almost forgot a vital stage then. Right, what we're going to do now, before we do anything else, we're going to flambe it. So, I ain't got anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck in the cognac. Okay, just let that heat up, and then we're just going to flambe it. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, you can, just about. Okay, now obviously that loses a lot of, well, it loses all the alcohol, it will just burn off, but we get the flavour. And now what we do is we chuck in about 50-60 ml of white wine, and the idea of that is to deglaze it. And although this pan is quite non-stick, so already all the brown sticky bits around the side have come off, but if not, the idea of that wine is to loosen up all that flavoursome bits, okay, and get that mixed in. So we're just going to cook that for a few minutes. We want to reduce that down, okay, get rid of most of that liquid, so there's about a tablespoon left, and then we'll be chucking in the stock. Okay, so that's now reduced down, so now we're going to take that stock, and like I say, you want about 500 ml of this stock, and it's just under that, so it don't matter. Okay, and I'm just going to add that into there, and put that there at the moment. We're just going to mix all this in, and you can see nice tomatoey colour. Okay, and what we're now going to do is we're just going to cook this on to reduce it down. So I'm just going to turn my heat up a little bit more, okay, to thicken it up a bit more, reduce it down, and then we're almost there then after that. All we've got is our mixed herbs. We'll be chucking them in. We've got our chicken. Now you could, when this is ready, put your chicken into this and mix it all in, or you could put your chicken and pour this over top. It's up to you. All right, but before we do any of that, we've got to let that reduce down. Right, so I put a pan of water on, boil it, ready to boil, to put the tagliatelle in. Okay, my sauce is thickened slightly and reduced slightly, so in a typical French manner, we're now going to add some butter to our sauce. Okay, and we're just going to let that obviously melt and mix in, and then we'll be almost ready to shove in the herbs, and we're done. The tagliatelle's gone in. Now because it's fresh pasta, it'll only take a minute or two. Alright, the dry pasta takes a little bit longer, although that had dried out a little bit, so it might take a couple more than a couple of minutes. So my sauce, I know you can't really see, is reduced down, it's thickened up nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a handful of those herbs, and we're just going to stir them in, and then we're just going to cook them off for a couple more minutes. Okay, and so hopefully we will then be ready to serve our pasta up. We get our chicken out, and what we're going to do, we're not going to put our chicken into here. We're going to put chicken on the plate, and then we're going to pour the sauce over the top, because it gives me ample opportunity to forget and pick up the handle of this bloody old thing and burn it off. Right, And for any of you who may have seen what the wife did earlier, I'm not trying to channel Benny Hill. Okay, so my pasta's ready. So we're now just going to drain that off, which of course you can't see at the moment. Okay, so I've got that draining. We're going to remove our chicken from the oven. And remember, this was from a 3-breasted chicken, so because obviously I want to share, I cut one of them in half, so we have 1.5 each. Alright, so we're going to come here. There's one. There's two. Let's just put that one onto there. Put the ring at the back. Don't worry about it. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to divide them up. Okay. Put some tagliatelle on a plate, and then we'll pour the sauce on. So my tagliatelle's on my plate. The chicken's on the plate, divided up. So now turn the heat off on that. Give that just a final mix through. And what we're now going to do is we're now going to spoon some of this lovely Chasseur sauce over the chicken. Okay, you can see it's got nice and brown. Okay, full of mushrooms, onions, herbs. I was going to say spicy, but it ain't got any bloody spice in it at all, is it? So let me just get rid of the last of this, and then let's try it out. All right. So let's probably make a mess on there. So here it is. Okay, chicken chasseur served with tagliatelle, but that's irrelevant. So let's try a bit of our sauce. So here's some mushroom and some sauce. You can taste the tomato in it. Chicken's nice and tender. Break off a bit of chicken, dip it in the sauce. Formidable.